We have more in common than we have more different. See?
Yeah, right.
That's right. Kumbaya.
Absolutely.
Welcome to amorephillyunion, the podcast where we seek to reframe this season to think of anything other than a Philly Union loss as a tremendous result. We are your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm C.
And I'm E.
And we are desperately trying to find some good happening in this season.
Something.
Yes.
Lifelines.
But before we jump into talking about the Union and what else we have planned for tonight, let's check out any housekeeping. Any updates on the download? How we doing there, E?
So in the Help Us Up the U challenge, our goal to get 3,000 downloads, we are currently over 2,700 at 2,723. So we're moving along. Our international brand also continues to expand as we welcome our first listeners from Hong Kong. So
wow,
that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. And for those who may not have heard, the Help Us Help the You challenge is where we set a download goal for the season, and once we reach it, we're going to make a donation to the Philly Union Foundation. So our goal this year is to reach 3,000 total downloads, and as E said, we are less than 300 from that target. So hopefully we'll get there in the next couple of weeks, be able to make a nice donation to the Philadelphia Union Foundation. As always, if you would like to make a donation on your own to the Union Foundation, they're always looking for help, whether that's monetary or if you want to get involved in any other wonderful charitable options. Please check out their website at philadelphiaunionfoundation.org
and click on that donate button.
That's right. Feel free to tell them we sent you. I'm not saying that you get anything, but Alyssa would at least have heard of us. So if she sees it, she might mention it. All right, let's talk about the game this past Saturday. Union headed north to Stade Saputo to take on Montreal. Going into this game, I think everybody following MLS at least gave the Union a half chance at winning this one because they were ahead of Montreal in the standings. And well, that was not to be, as the Union managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and lose 4-2. I mean, I could go on a rant here, but before I do, let's at least give you two a chance to talk about it.
I mean, this floor for Paul to break it down.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the bigger picture here, right? Last week we talked about like the Montreal game, the Chicago game, and then the New York Red Bulls game this coming Saturday. This was like the trifecta of turnaround, right? Montreal and Chicago are
struggling.
They're struggling. They're lower than we are. And if there were ever teams that we could start winning against and start our climb back up, these were the two teams. And, well, we've just dropped it with Montreal. We got Chicago tomorrow. And then, of course, New York on Saturday. So right now we're 0 for 1, and we only got 2 more chances left, and it's only going to get more difficult. And okay, let's go full Negadelphia. Let's at least say something nice. We could definitely talk lineups because we're missing again the standard battery of players were not there, right?
Right. So in net, once again, getting a second MLS start was Andrew Rick instead of Blake and instead of Semla. It was, other than that, it was the normal the starting back line of Wagner, Glesnes, Elliott, and Harriel.
Yeah.
So he had a good defensive front. Flock in that defensive midfield position. He had Bueno and McGlynn as the shuttlers. And then Sullivan, Donovan, and Baribo. Quinn Sullivan. I guess Quinn was
on the wing.
I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly how they changed the lineup there. It wasn't the diamond, I guess.
No,
it was
more of a 4-4-2.
Yeah, flat 4-4-2
it
with
was
Bueno
because,
and Flock in the middle.
Yeah, I remember Eric noting that because it was so unusual for us.
But hey, Donovan actually got a start. Baribo continued looking dangerous, at least out there. He's been showing well since he's gotten more play time with Carranza getting shipped off to Feyenoord. But But yeah, it's painful not having Blake back there getting things settled.
But the game started off on the right foot. Yeah, we looked good, I thought. We did get the first goal. Sullivan did get a nice little under pressure low shot within the box that went into the lower left corner of the net. Harriel with the assist. So hey, we were off to a good start. It was, I don't know. We go up
It was
1-0.
looking promising
It was
for
looking promising.
a hot minute. And, it wasn't too early. It
Yep.
was, it was a good solid 29 minutes in.
Right.
So it kind of seemed like, okay, this hardly means we won the match, but.
Yeah. And then Montreal equalizes it, 7 minutes later at that header off of Martinez. Kudos to Martinez. Was off that corner kick. It was, that's what you want. Header or corner kick to a header, laser fast at an angle that the goalkeeper can't even get to. But that's where the air started to partially deflate, I thought.
Mm-hmm. But not totally.
Yeah, because Bueno got a second goal for us, and the Union took the lead twice in this game.
Going into half 2-up. That's or 2-1, right?
Yep. And now it was a questionable call. It was a restart outside the Montreal box. They played it in. Baribo was arguably offside in that he didn't touch the ball, but he kind of was interfering with the play. But Bueno did make the play, did make the run, and got it into the net. Good to see him get on the score sheet. Good to see him attacking. Definitely see him fired up. He was definitely into the game. And like you said, then the Union got to halftime up 2-1, and hopeful that they were finally going to get a win after however many weeks it's been. Only to have, I don't know. Once again, it felt like Yakety Sax should have been playing, as in the 56th minute, Montreal got a free kick in the Union half of the field. And I remember thinking as watching this, I'm like, all right, in a play like this, the free kick is going to be on frame to challenge the goalkeeper so that he's going to have to make a stop, but in such a way that if an attacker makes the right run, they could deflect it past the goalkeeper. And in this one, the attacker made the run but missed the ball, and then that run distracted Andrew Rick, and he waved at the ball or did some sort of hurdle over the ball as the ball just bounced past him and bounced past everybody because nobody touched it after Bryce Duke took the free kick, and then ended up in the back of the net to tie the game into 56 minutes.
It was the
incredibly frustrating.
The Bugs Bunny 1, 2, 3 strikes are out. It was at that point, I start getting that uncomfortable sinking feeling in my gut. Probably a lot of this is just retroactive.
We're looking at it retrospectively. We know it's bad, but it's we were really hopeful that something would come out of this, something positive. And there might be little glimmers, but there's nothing here, I don't think, to expand upon. But please feel free to disagree with me, because I'd love to be cheered up.
One small little glimmer. It was nice seeing Gazdag come back in or sub into the game. Donovan came out, so Gazdag is back playing with the team. Yeah,
and they purposely, probably goes without saying, they purposely didn't, start him or have him in earlier because of, still coming back from the Euros and jet lag and whatnot. So they weren't sure how long he was going to be able to play. I guess they wanted to save him for when he might be able to save us, but not so much this time.
Nope, they were not able to find it, but they did find a way to. They were not able to find a way to get a goal, but they found a way to give up two in the basically at the death, 89th minute, and then again in stoppage time. And,
again, takeoffs and landings, and that's all I'll say, because I don't want to absolutely beat it into the ground. But
I know when Montreal got their fourth goal, and they kind of crashed the net too to kind of get the ball in the net. But that one player ran off to the corner and put on his little flash mask. He had tucked into his sports thing, the under bra shirt
Oh,
thing.
yes.
And he pulled it out and put on his little flash mask, which I
It's
don't know the
very
story
silly.
behind it, but it was silly. And
yeah, but I mean, would have been more fun if it had been our one of our guys.
yeah.
He did get a card for that, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
They did
Excessive
card him.
celebration
Yeah.
or whatever. the
Yeah.
penalty is.
Yeah, something they didn't actually say. They just say got a card. I'm sure it's the same heading as taking off your shirt after you score a goal or
Yeah.
something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah,
One thing that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me in this game, just a small one. I mean, when the substitution, they pulled out Baribo and replaced him with Bizo.
Mhm.
I mean, one, it's fun to say that as fast as you can,
Mhm.
3 times.
Mhm.
But Bizo's been playing more on the wing. I know in the past he's been on that defensive line, but they've been kind of moving him up into the midfield area. But it didn't feel like a substitution that would increase your attacking power necessarily. Now, I don't know if Baribo is, only playing partial time. I don't know. Yeah,
I think he had played all 90 in the midweek game, so they may have been pulling him to
Okay.
keep him rested for the next round.
Yeah.
Because that happened in the 76th minute, so it was tied at that point. So maybe he was just looking to see it out. I don't know if he was changing the formation. If he did, it kind of seemed to confuse everybody about what the formation was
Mhm.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm
And
wondering if it was Curtin's version of trying to park the bus and just, I know a draw isn't something to necessarily,
Yeah.
but like I
Yeah.
seem to remember the commentator saying something. They didn't say that, but they said something along those lines. I mean, of course, you'd rather win, but at this point, just sort of stem the bleeding and maybe try to keep anything else from happening. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think there might be something there as well. But the 90 minutes at midweek also certainly played a role.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And that sub occurred when the score was still level.
Was
Yeah,
still
that
level.
makes
That's
sense.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that does jive.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that was it. It was a strange one.
Mhm.
But honestly, it's
And
strange.
looking at the substitutes not used, I mean, it was Makanya only, who just recently joined the full club, and then Raffanello. So, and then Semla, of course, but those are the ones that were on the bench at the end of the game. So he didn't have a ton of options to pull from the bench, and one thing, maybe he was looking to move Ariel upfield. I don't know how the formation. I don't remember seeing exactly how the formation changed. But if I can rant about one thing about this in this whole stretch of
Sure.
games, it's a couple of weeks back there was a stink made that Wagner made some comments that the Union didn't spend some money to bring in. Not necessarily, superstars, but people to flesh out this team. I would just like to point out that the Union have only been shut out 3 times this season. Twice by Charlotte. One of them was a 0-0 draw, so they still got a point out of that one. And then the other time was by Toronto, where it was again a 0-0 draw. So they got shut out 3 times, and 2 of those they got points on. So, good on the defense for holding a shutout in 2 of those times where the Union did. But other than that, the Union have scored in every single game except for that in MLS. The problem is not the attack. The problem is the defense. And this is the same defense, obviously without Blake, that we got to the MLS Cup with. What's going on? Other than, it's a big loss. Martinez is not available. Martinez is currently playing for Venezuela, who's doing very well in the Copa America, so he's not coming back anytime too soon. But it's so frustrating watching this defense, which had been so good, turn so bad so fast, and they're giving up, like, on average 2 goals a game. Looking at the goals for and the goals against, the Union are actually almost even. They have 33 goals for and 35 goals against in 20 games. No, games played. Yeah, 20 games. So that means they're averaging almost 2 goals given up and slightly less than that goals scored. So like the fact that it felt like Wagner was saying that the Union didn't spend enough to bring in attack when it's clearly the defense that's the problem. Like I just don't understand this. I don't understand what's going on in the game and what's going on with the team. And it's very frustrating. And again, I don't know what as a fan I can do to fix things other than just bang my head against this wall and keep watching games and hope.
Start your own podcast, and
I guess. I trust that Curtin's doing what he can to get this turned around, but it's tough to watch.
Yeah,
it is really tough to watch.
It absolutely is. Yeah. It's a tough time. I mean, just listen to our tones.
Yeah.
We usually find something to joke about, and it's tougher. It's a lot tougher. Find little things, but it's wearing. And, Paul, you've been saying about the defense for quite a while, even before things got this wild. And I think now it's glaringly obvious, I would say.
Yakety sacks.
Yeah, kitty sacks.
I mean, I'm
not putting it on the playlist. I'm not doing it. I'm just telling you that now.
No.
Nobody can listen to that for any longer than about 10 seconds.
Right. Often we think when a team's struggling, we got to bring in. It's all about the attack, right? You got to get those attacks going. But Paul, the numbers are speaking for themselves. I mean, we are just hemorrhaging goals, which is just again. Glesnes, Elliott, Wagner, right? We were so happy and still are, I think, that, when he got that contract signed over during the off season. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
I'd like to know what they, when we went to the fan event in early May where you could meet the players and get things signed and, all that kind of stuff. There was a gentleman in front of us in line who had just that afternoon gotten a tattoo of Wagner on his calf, full, probably about Barbie size
action mode, taking a shot. Wagner tattoo on
and
the back calf.
His plan was to have Wagner sign his calf and then get it tattooed. Right. And I'm wondering how excited he is about his tattoo right now. I mean, of the people I would cite, he is not the first one, of needing improvement. I mean, I don't have as many complaints about Kai as I might have about some other folks. But still, I mean, it was a commitment to begin with, but it does one wonders.
Somewhere there's a guy with a Freddie Adu tattoo shaking his head.
And should you happen to be listening to this podcast, Mr. Kai Wagner tattoo, please write in.
Yeah, well, you know what? Us. The real shame would be the person with the Alexia Lawless.
Look, whoever did that brought it on themselves. I have no sympathy. None. But okay, I'll refrain from sidebar.
All right, anyway. I'm done with this game.
Yeah, let's move on.
Done. That's it. I'm done.
I'm done, man. I'm done. I'm done professionally.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Just to reiterate, fix it. Okay.
Yes.
Hashtag
fix it. Hashtag fix it. There we go. Let's get that hashtag.
Buy new players for every position. Hashtag. Okay. Bye. I mean, honestly, at this point, mix it up. Let's do it. Look, when we get Blake back, I'll be curious to see if anything starts gelling a little bit better. I'm not saying it's a magic bullet because it's not, but we'll see. Okay, we're done with this game.
Yeah, we're done with this game. And other than that, Philly Union news over the last few days has been it's been dominated by the official announcement that Carranza is being transferred to Feyenoord. I was looking at We the Union on Instagram today. Apparently, it's currently being listed as a free transfer. Apparently, with so we're not actually getting any transfer money, but we get a sell-on clause. And Carranza is getting a 4-year contract with Feyenoord. So it's confusing, but essentially we get no money for Carranza because we had no contract with him after the end of this season. But he's immediately signing a 4-year contract with Feyenoord. And apparently if Feyenoord does turn around and sell him for some portion, some amount of money, we get a portion of it. Now, it'll be interesting to see, whatever portion the Union are supposed to get from this sell-on, how much of that they have to give to Miami because when they got Carranza from Miami, there was an agreed sell-on clause. At that point, I don't know, maybe making it a free transfer. Says, sorry, Miami, we didn't get any money, so your clause means nothing. And then if there's another sell-on clause, then the union keep it all. That would be a nice bit of business from Ernst Tanner, but I don't know if that's going to actually happen.
My God.
It's like the tax code.
Can we transfer CFOs? Because I think we might need that. Wow. Okay.
It's a non-fungible transfer, and it's an NFT. I don't know. But yeah, so Carranza will be done. He's not going to play anymore for the Union, which we kind of knew going in after the Montreal game. And I think Curtin actually said it in the pregame press conference that Carranza was not going to be playing anymore for the Union.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Obviously a great player. Definitely a team player. Seemed well loved by the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good teammate on the field. Like it very much obvious that he liked playing with them. They liked playing with him, and he will be missed. He was, truly a talent, and we'll see who can step into that role. Baribo's been showing well the last 2 games. Donovan's obviously going to get some more opportunities. I'm not sure where Marcus Anderson disappeared to, but he wasn't even on the 18.
Yeah, right.
In the 18 for the Montreal game. So we'll have to see if he gets any more time, because he did at the beginning of the season. And then of course Ura, our $1 million man, would be nice to see him.
Yeah, right.
Pick up the pace.
Yeah, maybe he'll kind of step into that role.
Well, Anderson had that disastrous moment that cost us a game. I've lost count of which game it was, but he came on and
he was
absolute terrible pass. And I know you don't get for one bad moment, but one wonders if he's in some sort of union purgatory at the moment. So
so with not a whole lot else other than to lament the transfer of Carranza. We do have a little bit of a treat for this episode.
So with our season in the doldrums and a Red Bulls match coming up, we decided to try something new. Past C, take it away. Our special guest tonight is from a group rarely heard from on Union Fancasts and accounts. He is our friend Mark, a Red Bulls fan. Mark and I met at our university, but have kept in touch through our love of the game. Tonight, we wanted to talk to one of the most decent people I know about soccer, fandom, and rivalries that aren't always two-sided. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, thank you. It's good. I'm glad to be here.
And also, very brave of you to come into the belly of the beast like this.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I didn't know you guys personally, I would probably have declined. But I know your bark is probably worse than your bite, so I wasn't too afraid to give it a shot.
That's mostly Paul, so it's okay.
Also, the check cleared, I think. So I think
yeah, it's good. So, I guess, I mean, maybe just a little background, soccer background. Mark, you just how did you get into soccer and Red Bulls and maybe Metro Stars? I don't know if you're a Metro Stars guy.
What vintage are you here?
Yeah.
So I'm actually, my vintage is Long Island Rough Riders.
Wow. All right.
And they're a club that still exists. They are, I think they're playing in USL, like maybe 2. So they're amateur. But just to take it back, so I'm a suburban, Long Island kid from the 80s. So I played soccer, police boys club, middle school, into high school before switching to cross country. My older brother was a very good player. Got to see my brother win high school championships. So that's kind of what piqued my interest in the sport. As you guys probably know, so the NASL, or at least the Cosmos, went out probably in 1984. So you really had kind of a vacuum of professional soccer here. I mean, it existed, but it was hard to find. Jump ahead a couple of years, graduate from Lehigh, come back to Long Island. It's 1994, and the Long Island Rough Riders are playing locally up near Hofstra University, and they're playing. I think it was the A League at that time. In fact, whatever the top pro league was, probably changed once or twice, but had a great team. Guys like Tony Miola was playing with them.
Oh, wow.
I think Tab Ramos briefly played with them.
Wow.
So really, these were guys. These were guys who were part of the U.S. national team, and this was their opportunity if they weren't playing overseas. Rough Riders won a national title in either '95 or '96, and then at that point, following the '94 World Cup, MLS kicked off. So I was pretty much a casual supporter of MLS from the beginning. Not really a Metro Stars fan per se, but I tuned in to watch the very first game and saw Winolda score the very first goal. I remember watching those first couple of MLS Cups, watching PC win. In fact, I think the first year, '96, I was on a business trip to glamorous Utica, New York, and I watched that first MLS Cup from my hotel room. So really a casual fan, occasionally checking in on the Metro Stars, but they really weren't on the radar here in New York at all. They played in the Meadowlands, it was cavernous. The level of soccer wasn't great. So I would say I really started to tune in when Red Bull bought them out in 2006. I think that was the first thing that kind of made a little bit of news here. The Red Bull was coming in with their deep pockets. It seemed at the time like a good move for the league to bring in an owner like that. I didn't really take note of kind of the pushback or the hate, but there were people I know, fans that left. They once the Metro Stars were bought out, they left at that point. But then I would say 2010 with the opening of Red Bull Arena and signing Henry, that's when I started to actually go to matches. And I've probably been to 40, 45 matches in that period of time.
Right. Yeah. Which
is no easy feat because if you guys know, Red Bull Arena is not in New York. It's in New Jersey. It's in a little peninsula, Harrison, New Jersey, across the river from Newark. So as a Long Islander, it's very difficult to get to.
Yeah.
But since that time, I would say I'm a pretty big supporter, never miss a match, was there for the first Shield win. My best friend, he goes to matches with me. My girls will come to matches with me. So yeah, it's been, they've been my team, like the team I most focus on in terms of professional sports, probably for the last 10 to 15 years, I'd say.
Wow.
Even like compared to like Major League Baseball and stuff like that, or just...
Exactly. Like I'm an Islanders fan. I would say I used to have season tickets for the Islanders, but really kind of I would say it's Red Bulls first, never miss a match. Islanders, New York Giants. They're the team that I just I really I put all my support behind.
Same for us for the Union, except I don't know, Paul dabbles elsewhere. But
pretty much anything Philadelphia. I'll check.
Yeah. He's a little more universally Philly. Eric and I are more exclusively soccer, but very.
You're more discerning.
Yeah.
I just don't have enough time to follow it all.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was something interesting that you had said to me, and you, Mark, was that you feel like the Union fans take the rivalry more seriously, or even maybe it's more in our minds than it is in the Red Bulls fans. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So first of all,
I'm putting you on the spot here.
No.
Remember, we're not giving your last name, so they can't find you.
Yeah, I remember bringing that up. But I'll give you an analogy, right? So in hockey, in the NHL, you've got these divisions, right? Small divisions, 6 teams. You got the Islanders, you got the Rangers, you got Philly, you got the Devils, right? All locally, close teams play each other several times a year, the rivalries are fierce, right? You're Philly, DC, Jersey. I think that it's natural that New York is always going to have rivalries with Philly, with Boston, with DC. I think in the case of the Red Bulls, right? They've had this rivalry with DC since day one, going back to the Metro Stars days.
Yeah.
It's OG. It's OG. It was the fiercest, and I would say even after NYCFC joined for those first few years, Red Bull supporters, and I can't speak for the supporters groups, but I think people that I would see on message boards would say it's still the DC rivalry number one, with NYCFC kind of a manufactured rivalry, right? Like the league, league put there to gin up that crosstown rivalry. It's good for the sport. New York's a big media market. That being said, the rivalry, I think, with NYCFC has now surpassed DC, but the DC hate is still real. So you've got NYC, you've got DC. I think Red Bull supporters don't feel like there's room for any more, direct rivalries. Like that's enough. Of course, we want to beat Philly. Of course, when Red Bull supporters go to Philly, I'm sure it's contentious, and vice versa. But I think the fact that we already had that fierce DC rivalry. New York City was always going to develop into a rivalry. It just kind of puts Philly a little bit further down the pecking order.
Yeah.
So, but the only thing I would caveat that with is, I think some of your front office are former Red Bulls folks.
Really
employed a little bit of that Red Bulls, press. So I think the last few years, what New York supporters would say is Philly has beaten us at our own game. They've had the success with it the last few years that we haven't. For us, 2019 to 2022 was a kind of a rough stretch. But again, you guys knocked us out of the playoffs, 2019, 2021.
Yeah.
So again, like using that NHL analogy, there's a rivalry there. By nature, there's a rivalry there. But I just think if you were to ask supporters who's the Red Bulls rivals, they would say New York and DC. Philly maybe comes in third.
So we can't even win at the rivalry.
Well,
beat us in the playoffs. That's good enough, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That was a good day. We were at that game.
Yeah.
No offense.
No, I'm sure.
It started as a really bad day that ended up as a decent one. For us. It's interesting you say that, but it makes a lot of sense, especially since you have a crosstown. We don't really have crosstown. We're one and done. So, New York has a lot of that, a lot more of that. So, but I do feel like MLS was really trying, and maybe the Union, they were really trying to build rivalries for us with DC and NYCFC somewhat too. It hasn't quite taken but it sort of has. I don't know, but it's not. I don't know.
I feel like that's brewing, right? That one may take off. I mean, you guys, they need I know they have a USL championship team in Pittsburgh, right? The Riverhounds.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you had a Pittsburgh entry into MLS, and you guys tell me, because you're Pennsylvanians, I could see that taking off as a rivalry, but I don't think that's coming.
Yeah,
I don't think that's coming soon. It's a little bit more spread out, so as a result, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think it depends. Honestly, I think I can still remember, for me personally, I'm sure there's other stuff too, but I remember my friend. So we share season tickets, the three of us, and then a couple other folks. So we don't go to all the games, but we go to a lot. But my friend who has season tickets with her husband texted me from the very first Red Bulls game in the stadium. And she said, I will never come to a Red Bulls game again. The fans are throwing full bottles of water. like, and she sat like, 5 rows back from the field or something like that. So she was on the receiving end of that.
Right.
You've been to Lehigh Lafayette, you know what that kind of stuff is like. So, but yeah, so, I mean, not hashtag not all Red Bulls fans, you know what I mean? Like, totally get it. But it got chippy real early. And I think that's what cemented it on our side. Part of what cemented it.
Sure. And that should never happen, and for the most part, right? For the most part in America, unlike, Europe, you can safely go to a game in another city. Use your head, when I go when I go into the Garden, I don't wear my Islanders jersey because you're just looking for it. I wouldn't go to see the Islanders play the Flyers, with an Islanders jersey. But that stuff should never happen. The rivalry should stay civil and friendly for the most part.
And those were early days. That was a bit of the Wild West then. So, I mean, it's not like that now. Now the remainder of that is if you walk under the supporters section or even look at the website for the supporters, the Sons of Ben. There are the rules for the section, the usual stuff about not sitting during the match and all that kind of thing. But one of the actual rules is not to wear red. You are not allowed to wear red.
Yeah. They will make you change your shirt.
They will.
They will literally get you another shirt and make you change if you're wearing red. Doesn't matter what red you're wearing.
You could be like Phillies red.
No, it could be Phillies, and it doesn't matter. So, but like I said, that I know that's isolated. I'm sure Phillies fans have not, or Philly fans have not always behaved themselves elsewhere. Sure. We have gone. I think we've only been lucky enough to go to one Red Bulls game in the new stadium. We've gone to 2 Red Bulls games I can think of. One way back to see Beckham when he was playing for Galaxy, but that was at the Meadowlands. So we've been to the stadium, and I was shocked at how easy it was to get in and out, how nice everybody was. I mean, because we weren't in full kit, but we had Union stuff on, and nobody said a ward. Like it was just
And you know what? If the visiting supporters section is on the other side of the field from the South Ward and up in the corner. So that if you're up there, you're probably pretty well protected and pretty safe. But outside of the South Ward, I will say probably most of the people you'll see in the upper decks are your typical families, with kids. So but it's a good venue to see a match. It's not the easiest venue to get to unless you live in New Jersey, or if you're in like Manhattan and you want to take the PATH trains there. Like for me, I call it the triathlon to get to Red Bull Arena, because I take the Long Island Railroad 45 minutes into Penn Station, switch to New Jersey Transit for 15, 20 minutes, and then either hop on the PATH one stop back or have to walk it. So by the time I get to the match, I'm exhausted. So I'm not throwing bottles at anybody. I don't.
That is commitment. Good heavens. Yeah, that's, because we don't live that close to the stadium, and but it's pretty much just driving there, Right. So I'm speaking for Eric and I. Paul's a little bit closer than we are, but yeah. So, okay. Wow, that is commitment. Yeah.
So real quick. That's interesting about the New York City FC rivalry, because I remember when that team came online, and it really did feel manufactured in a sense of, it was what Man City was their largest investor, and even just the aesthetic of the uniform just looked like Man City, North America.
It's interesting because I think Red Bull supporters were very concerned with New York City coming into the league, right?
Yeah.
They're playing in Yankee Stadium. There are going to be these efforts to get them a stadium within the city limits, right?
I remember that was one of their big things, like it'll be within the city, and that did feel like a jab at New York Red Bulls.
Absolutely. What kind of stole some of their thunder, they look at, the Red Bulls as this plastic club, this corporate marketing arm of Red Bull. Well, you're a little brother too. You're part of city football group, right? And what is interesting is Red Bulls fans were very nervous about them coming in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go and win the Supporters Shield that year. So it's like breathe a sigh of relief, right?
Yeah. You're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay, right? Then we win another Shield in 2018 before they had a chance. Maybe they were just finally making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So at least we didn't lose, too much of the fan base. Then it was, oh man, they're going to win a cup before us, and they did. But I mean, it barely made a ripple. It barely makes a ripple in the New York media.
Yeah.
So that didn't hurt us either.
Yeah.
But what's going to hurt is when they do get this stadium built. So now they're going to build right next to Citi Field. It's probably 3 years away, but it's going to be easy to get to whether you're from Long Island or within, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating this professional sporting zone with the Mets playing next door. So that's going to be tough. Red Bull does not want to be Red Bull New Jersey. But they really should go all in on New Jersey, because that's where the majority of the fan base should come from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things. If Red Bull were smart, they would rebrand the club, in my opinion, as Red Bull Metro or Metro SC with Red Bull as the primary
main sponsor.
Yeah, I think it would give the casuals more of a connection, chance to get a connection with the team, as opposed to just looking at it as Red Bull, part of the soda company.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens when they put that arena in. I have a brother-in-law out here who said this is great. He goes, you can change your allegiance. You'll be able to go to. Said, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I go, I'll go there to see them play the Red Bulls. But no. I'm stuck. They got their claws in me. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. You've made your choice.
You're only allowed one choice. Yeah.
What's funny is a Facebook memory came up from like 2010. And I think it was, I'm going with my father to see the Red Bulls for the first time. And this should be fun while I wait for that new club in New York, thinking that it was a placeholder. And, it didn't take very long for it to, just to grab me. So.
That's cool. I remember talking to you about that, because you were like, we might get something closer, a little more manageable, for us. And and all of a sudden you're talking Red Bulls, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm done.
Yeah, it happens.
In terms of just the Red Bull story and all that, are there any particular players and or coaches that you've were favorites throughout? Because they've been around since 2006, you said. So
Red Bull's been around since 2006. I mean, so listen, it was from 2010 to 2014, the Henry era. I mean, that was just great. And 2013 is like a Cinderella story. So Hans Baca leaves, clever Hans Baca, as we called it. Mike Petke, who is a Metro Stars favorite.
I was wondering if that's where you're going to go. So keep going.
Yeah, a Long Island guy, right? He takes over managing the club. Let's be realistic. Henry was managing the club. At least he was managing on field. But, again, I think I said I was there in 2013, October, when they clinched that first Shield. It just all came together. Thierry Henry, 18 years, Mike Petke on the sideline, packed house. Even going down, we go down a goal, and it was, if you go back and you'll watch the videos on YouTube, Steve Tangelosi, who was our play-by-play guy, oh no, the ghosts of Caricola, the curse of Caricola, is it coming back? And they just, they thrashed Chicago. It was 5-2, and the place was rocking. that's definitely my best memory. But that whole era, like that whole Henry era, 2010 to 2014, we had chances. We were competitors to win a cup. We got knocked out in 2014. I think it was New England in the Eastern Conference Finals. It ended up being Henry's last game. But even then, Henry retires. Jesse Marsh comes in. Now, this is a good one. You guys, I don't know how much you're aware of this. So 2014 ends. We get knocked out of the Eastern Conference Finals. Petke's the coach. Henry retires.
Yeah.
2015, Ali Curtis comes in, gets brought in as like sporting director. He's a guy who was, very, very, very much involved with the league. And he fires Petke.
Yeah.
And he brings in Jesse Marsh. And fans were livid. They held a town hall that was just, it was unbelievable. The vitriol that was just, hurled at Curtis and Jesse Marsh, and Luis Robles was there. He wasn't getting the vitriol, but he was there to kind of keep things calm. And, it just seemed like a PR disaster. And then we go and win.
As a Philly outsider, when they got rid of Petke, I was like, what? How could you get rid of this guy? But
they felt they wanted, he wasn't tactically the guy to bring Red Bull where they wanted, and they go on and win the Shield that year. So they won everybody over. So the Henry Petke years were great, but then the Marsh years, 2015 to 2018, right? Two Shields and a U.S. Open Cup Finals appearance. So, that we lost that cup 1-0. That was 2017. And I always say, right, if you look from 2013 to 2018, 3 Shields. Had we won that U.S. Open Cup, that would have been 4 trophies in 6 seasons. You're really kind of in the argument for like, team of the decade type thing. But not to be.
What's that like?
Yeah. I gotta say, like, you guys have been to what, the U.S. Open Cup final 3 or 4 times?
At least twice
in a row.
Yeah.
Made it twice in a row.
Right. So you didn't win those.
Nope.
MLS Cup. We've been to 2. Didn't you guys have been to 1? Didn't win those, right? You got the Shield is from 2020 or 21?
2020.
Right, the COVID year, right?
COVID year, yep.
So I kind of feel for you guys. I feel like you're kindred spirits to the Red Bull supporters, Yeah. I mean, we've been to I like to say we've been to 6 finals because we've been to 3 cup finals and lost those 3. The three Shield clinching games were all must-win games. In fact, I think 2018 we won and we needed help. We needed Atlanta to get to lose and got blown out. So I kind of feel like we've had 6 opportunities to win a trophy and we've done it 3 times. So it's not a bad strike rate, 50%. But you guys you're starting to the team is starting to get a history now, and it's it's not unlike the Red Bulls history.
We have more in common than we have more different. See?
Yeah, right.
That's right. Kumbaya.
Absolutely.
Kumbaya. It's one to grow
Kumbaya,
on.
That's right. No, it's so true. It's just it's funny because I just keep thinking of all those I keep thinking of my nephew every time you were mentioning that, because in every one of them he's been absolutely destroyed. No matter what age, because he's older now, but I remember one of the Open Cups, it came down to PKs.
It was the final. Yeah.
And it was the last PK, and my nephew Nate was still small enough to hold Paul's son, and Paul was I think you were holding him, or you had him by the hand. I think you were holding him, and you said, if we don't get this, we're going. That's it. Yeah. And so it didn't work out, and I don't even know if you guys said bye. They just left because my nephew was in absolute floods of tears.
As soon as that goal was like, I was like, and we're gone.
To this day, can't stand PKs. Like when it came down to that in the final, he was in the. I've mentioned it many times in this pod. He was in the backyard. He couldn't take it. He was like, and Paul ran to tell him some good news at one point. He's like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Still.
It's just, it's like, you got to just do it. You got to win it once. Like one MLS Cup will, I was so disappointed with MLS's decision this year to basically pull out of the U.S. Open Cup because I'm like,
thank you.
I'll take that. I'll take, that's, there's so much history there. That's so meaningful. Yeah, you want to win MLS Cup, but you know what? I would love to win that trophy.
Yeah.
Right? I said exactly the same thing. I'm so glad. I feel validated. But just, I mean, it's the oldest tournament and all that thing. And I know people, like, we talked to people, we went to a fan event, we were sort of just talking to people while we were in line because it was long. And they were like, oh, well, that, that tournament, it's hard to follow because it's spread throughout the year. And I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of great. You're not doing 3-4 games a week. Well, it's not 3-4, 2-3 games a week. And, I don't know. And just the history behind it. I mean, the Bethlehem Steel history there too, for us Lehigh folks, it's just like, kind of wild. So, it's a bummer.
That's all driven by Apple and Garber. They don't control that tournament. Games are broadcast on YouTube. They say they don't like the optics of it. They wanted something, they created this Leagues Cup because they needed some marquee event to put on Apple.
Yeah.
I don't know. Work that out. Figure that out. Get those, get Apple to broadcast those games. Work with US Soccer. Turn it into the big thing that it should be.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the whole Apple MLS in bed thing?
So I'm kind of mixed because they were not getting the money from a traditional cable operator, right? The contract. So the contract that was expiring with ESPN and Fox Sports was earning them about $90 million a year, right? They wanted $300 million a year. The cable companies, the cable operators were not biting. They weren't biting. So in terms of revenues for the league, this guarantees them like $250 million a year. So I understand that if you spend it right, it can grow the league and grow the sport. But putting your league behind a paywall, you just cut out all the casuals.
Yeah.
Right. People who might be surfing and stumble across a game.
Yep.
They almost, I got to say, they had to sign Messi to make this thing viable, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens in 2 or 3 years when Messi's gone? Do all those subscriptions go with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the sport in the country. There's so many things that people disagree with, right? Okay, there's no promotion relegation. That never really bothered me that much. Because I'm like, unless you can make it viable with, say, the USL, I don't want to see some sort of fake manufactured promotion relegation. Like people say, oh, let's get to 40 teams and have an MLS 1 and an MLS 2.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? We're relegated, so we're not playing Philly this year. We're only going to play Cincinnati. Like that to me is fake.
Yeah.
But I think if you were to open the sport up, that would grow it by leaps and bounds. Then you get promotion relegation into the mix. Then I think the more traditional cable companies get interested. Maybe you have more financial opportunities that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is just the structure of the league. Like you talk to Euro snobs, you talk to folks in the UK. They're like, your shield is bogus because it's not a balanced schedule. You should only have 20 teams in your first division, your premier division. It's like, guys, your country is the size of California.
Yeah.
The the U.S. could have hundreds of teams.
Yeah.
I would love to see maybe like the league expand to 40 and kind of split into like a, like Major League Baseball, like an East and West. And you could have 20 and 20. You could have a balanced schedule. You have a shield winner for each of those leagues. You could have a cup tournament, but then you could have a champions match between the two league. There's so many ways the sport can grow and become, even more interesting and more saleable. But just remains to be seen.
Yeah. And there's there could be such a hunger for it, and there is, I think, more so than there once was, right? But it's still not there. But I mean, it's the sport all the kids start with.
Yes,
and I think maybe that's the problem, though, because sometimes it feels like in America a starter sport, and for it to go to something else, right? So I don't know, because it's just so you give them a ball and let them run around and let them get the idea, and then now we'll give them more complicated things like football, like American football, and or a bat or whatever the thing happens to be, and of course the kid has to have an interest and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's such potential.
I think you're onto something, but I would say the younger generation, right? The fact that I'm gonna give away my age here, right? Growing up, I have my brother 6 years older. I remember mid-'80s, the only soccer you could watch besides the NASL was a program called Soccer Made in Germany. It was a weekly show. It was on like UHF. I don't even think they showed maybe one match, and they had like a review show, like the weekend review for the Bundesliga. I quit soccer after freshman year of high school. I went to cross country. I told my kids, if I had grown up today, I never would have quit soccer. First of all, I would have been playing travel for much longer. It just would have been a different environment. I think even if those kids play soccer as youth, right, and go on to other sports, the fact that they can see the best in the world week in and week out, and the fact that with that phone, you get the highlights in 5 minutes, I think you can hook these kids for life. But I don't know. We'll see.
I once heard somebody say that baseball was a sport of radio, football was a sport for TV, and soccer is a sport of the internet.
Yeah,
which has, potential to it.
Yeah.
So
look at the demographics, right? The age of baseball viewers versus soccer viewers. It's probably a 20-year spread.
Yeah. So I remember back in the day when Landy Cakes was still playing in MLS, and we would spend what was like $20, and MLS had their own game package, and you didn't necessarily have access to all the games live, but 2 days later you had access to everything. And we would watch so much soccer.
Yeah.
But it was all you had to stream it. It was all streaming.
Right.
So the Union in New York, we're crossing paths this Saturday.
Yeah.
I almost feel like we need to make a wager. We gotta we send you a cheesesteak, or you send us some pizza. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thoughts for the game coming up on Saturday. What do you?
Yes. So a couple of things. We may be missing some players, right? We're missing Carlos Carnell in net because he's been with Paraguay down at in Copa America. So you'll have Ryan Mera. So that's not a big drop off. Emil Forsberg's been hurt after being over with Sweden, playing in some I guess Euro prep matches. So I don't know if he's going to be playing this weekend. We should have Lewis Morgan back from his stint with Scotland. Listen, on paper we should win. We should win, especially if we have Morgan. Morgan and Van Zier seem to team up pretty well. Van Zier, one of our DPs, can't do anything, seems, without Morgan on the field. Our midfield is maybe a little strained because we just sold Frankie Amaya, who really has been an engine. He sold him to Toluca. He's been an engine in the midfield. So without Amaya, without Forsberg, you lose some of that creativity. But no, I mean, I think the Red Bulls have an exciting squad this year. I mean, the Forsberg signing has overachieved, I guess I would say. Getting Lewis Morgan back after basically being hurt all season, he's just been on a tear. He's our golden boot guy. So hopefully he'll play this weekend. We've got a young center back from Sweden, Noah Isla, who is I think he's 21, turning 22. Kid can pass the ball. I mean, he breaks lines. He puts balls through 2-3 lines like on a rope to players. It's a good exciting squad. It's got internationals. It's got a lot of good young Americans like Tolkien and Edelman. I don't know much about Philly this year except that you're 15 points below us in the standings. And I think you guys just did you guys just sell Carranza?
We did.
Yeah.
Big loss.
Yeah. So I would say, listen, it's always hard to go into the other team's stadium, but I think if you got Morgan starting, and you can get Forsberg in there, I think it could be a long night for Philly.
Yeah.
I think we would pretty much agree with you at this point. There was a time earlier this season that we might have quibbled a little bit more. But it's been a very rough spate for what feels like a very long time. It probably hasn't been as long as it feels, but it's not been a good season. We have people out too for various, although some of them are starting to trickle back now. Our keeper, our brick wall, has been out for knee surgery, Andre Blake. So he's going to be a little slow to come back. So we have a recent high school graduate in net. He's doing well.
He's inexperienced, but listen, what do they say? If you're good enough, you're old enough. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've had great luck with young players like Brendan Aronson, and we've not even luck, because we have this whole academy thing and we've been relying on that very heavily. The short version of that, and probably painting with too broad strokes, is that I think generally we feel like maybe they're starting to lean on it a little too heavily, and we need to bring somebody in, especially with the loss of Carranza. Losing him now, what made sense, or trading him his contract, selling his contract, I don't know what the proper terminology, but now made more sense than at the end of the season for various financial and logistical reasons, but it's a big loss. So it's going to be tough to overcome.
Yeah.
So
you know what? In a similar vein, right? So Red Bull's been bringing up a lot of youth. Tolkien, Edelman, Peter Stroud has gone down hurt. These are all Jersey guys who have come up through the academy. The Nealis brothers are Massapequa, Long Island guys who played collegiately, locally, and Georgetown, I guess, and Hofstra. But Red Bulls fans have been upset because it's like, hey, you know what? It can't just be a youth movement. You got to bring in some experience. And they did that with Forsberg. And really, nobody, I think, has expected the season that we've had up to this point. We've lost, 4 matches, and we're undefeated in 10 at home. But I would say we're probably 2 pieces away from really, threatening, let's say, Miami and Columbus and LAFC. And I think fans are upset that we sold Amaya now, because it's like, we should have a win now mentality.
Yeah.
But
the iron's hot.
But when you can get $2.5 million for a guy today, rather than lose him on a free transfer at the end of the season, you sometimes have to make those deals. It just remains to be seen if Red Bull will put that money to good use. And that's when I had said earlier, like the last 4 years has been kind of a low point. It felt like we were developing people, we were selling them, and then nothing after that. So
it sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
We have, once again, more in common than we
That's right.
than we don't.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a secret weapon this weekend, and that is my mother will be in attendance
Oh,
with
okay.
us at the game, and she insists that she has been to mostly Red Bull games and that they
Okay.
have rarely lost
Okay.
with when her presence is there. So we will see
Yeah.
if, as we call her on this podcast, Scoops, if Scoops comes through this time. But this might be even too big of a valley for her to cross.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Well, we'll see. And the most important thing is that all the players have fun. So that's
be nice if the fans could too.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't mind if Philly has a little bit more fun at this game.
Yeah, because they do play best when they have fun. So
yeah.
all of them, I'm sure. But
I will wish New York all the best when Philly faces them in the playoffs.
Ah, okay. If you guys can make it, you got.
It's a
got some work to do.
Double-edged compliment. I don't know, but yeah. We got to get our butts to these playoffs. So
maybe this weekend will be the springboard Philly needs to catapult you the rest of the way.
I mean, it's
your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to turn around at some point.
Mark being a very gracious guest here.
Well,
that's just Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not life or death. It's entertainment.
Right.
I wish it would be a little more rewarding.
Yeah.
A little more entertaining.
Yeah.
I think there's that quote, Jurgen Klopp, right? Says that soccer is the most important of the least important things.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that. But
absolutely.
I do appreciate the in many respects, New York Red Bulls is the elder brother to Philly here. I mean, so I appreciate the perspective of, you've been where we are. So
yes. I'd like to say it gets better, but I'll let you know when we win a cup.
Yeah. And I mean, we know the pain too, because when we went up against LAFC in the MLS Cup final, it's just like this team is 2 years old. Like they haven't put the work into the league like the Union have. Like it's just not fair karmically that they should win.
I know.
But Gareth Bale, that's there we go.
Yeah, right.
Gareth Bale.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at Miami, right? Is it fair that they've got this, embarrassment of riches, right? Like we'll take 4 of the best players to ever play the game, and even at 38 years old, we'll put them in MLS. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. And
thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Super appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
In the past,
absolutely.
When we have a guest, we usually have them do our sign off, which is "Go Union," but we'll spare you that one. We won't make you cross that line.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. And maybe we can let's do this again next year.
All right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That'll be great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank
you. You too. We'll see
you. Game.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So thank you again to our guests for joining us this week. It was a real pleasure to get to talk with enemy supporter. Even if he's wrong on so many levels, it was good to have him. That he would show up and talk with us. Just kidding, Mark. No, seriously.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much. Upcoming games this weekend, or this week actually, because the Union have a midweek game. Whereas we're recording on Tuesday, they have the Chicago game coming up tomorrow in Chicago. Currently, the Union are in 12th place, and Chicago is dead last in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully we only lose by 1 or 2.
I can't. I just can't. Anything that's not a win will be disappointing.
See, I'm actually trying just to reshape anything that's not a loss by at least 2. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're down 3-0, we come back and draw 3-3. I'll be happy. But
I've got to find some way to find some joy in this season, and it's I don't know.
And more importantly, the players too.
I would love to see the Union start getting on some wins, though.
Yeah.
And Chicago certainly seems to be one where they have a better than average shot at doing so. And then after the midweek game in Chicago, there'll be obviously the 4th of July celebrations. And then the New York Red Bulls will be traveling to Chester to visit the Union at Subaru Park for a Saturday game. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good time.
Rivalry night.
I don't know what the weather is going to look like. I remember if there's a fireworks or anything after the game, but well, I'm sure we'll find out because at least I've got the tickets that we normally split, and it should be hopefully it'll be a fun time. We'll see. But
we're going in a
Bulls
game
are
too.
currently in 3rd, so that should be a tough game for the Union. All right, so that's it for this week. Anything else from any of you?
Happy 4th.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Happy Independence Day.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hopefully we have a reason to be really happy. So
that would be great. Go celebrate the birthday of the United States of America. If you want to get in touch with us, you can come visit us at our website, amorephillyunion.com. Feel free to reach out via email at pod@amorephillyunion.com. On X, we are amorephillyu. Instagram, YouTube, and Threads, you can find us at amorephillyunion. As a reminder, we not only have our podcast on Spotify, but we have a very eclectic song playlist there. So you can find us either way on Spotify. You can also find our podcasts on Apple, Amazon, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in for another episode of Amorephillyunion. We're your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm C.
And I'm E.
Go Union! Win. Drop mic.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh.
Oh, man.